The great lecture hall of the Galactic Academy was filled with hundreds of young alien students. The air shimmered with soft lights from floating knowledge orbs. Every desk was alive with screens that displayed countless worlds across the galaxy. Today was special. Today, they were going to study something that most of them had only heard whispers about. A world so strange, so dangerous, that even the bravest explorers avoided it. Professor Chiron, an old alien with silver skin and long, thoughtful eyes, stepped to the center of the hall. He raised his hand, and the orbs dimmed. A single planet appeared in the air, spinning slowly. Blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. It looked peaceful, even beautiful. The students tilted their heads in confusion. "This world," said Professor Chiron, his voice heavy with meaning, "is called Earth." A hush fell across the hall. Even the glowing screens seemed to pause. Some students shifted nervously. Others leaned forward with curiosity. The name was familiar, but the truth was not. One student, a young creature with crystal-like skin, raised a hand. "Professor," it asked, "why does the galaxy call it a death world, when it looks so calm and alive?" The professor gave a thin smile, the kind that holds more warning than comfort. "You see beauty," he said slowly, "but beauty hides the truth." Another student laughed nervously. "A death world, really? For such a green and soft-looking planet?" The professor's gaze swept across them. "You will learn," he said, "why Earth is unlike any other planet in the galaxy." His voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "And why its dominant species, the humans, feared and respected, even by those who have never seen them." The room grew tense. The students glanced at one another, their curiosity now sharpened with unease. Because when the galaxy calls a world a death world, it is never a joke. The professor touched the control panel. The image of Earth zoomed in, mountains rising. The first lesson. The lights in the lecture hall dimmed further, leaving only the spinning image of Earth, hovering in the air. Professor Chiron's voice echoed softly. "Before you judge, you must understand the rules of this world." A young student with fins for ears whispered to a friend, "Rules? What rules could a planet have?" The professor's silver eyes glinted. "Everything that lives here fights for survival, often in ways you cannot imagine." The students leaned closer, the hum of the knowledge orbs, matching their growing excitement. Suddenly, the screens around the hall came alive, showing humans for the first time. They were small, fragile, and unarmed, yet they moved with a strange confidence. Hunting, building, creating machines. Even when facing monsters larger than themselves, they never hesitated. A student gasped, "How can such tiny creatures survive against giant predators?" Professor Chiron raised a claw, and the room grew silent. "They survive," he said, "because their greatest weapon is not size or strength." He paused, letting the suspense build. "It is their mind, their courage, and their will to adapt." The students exchanged uncertain glances. One muttered, "Adapt? They barely have natural armor, and they are easy to crush." The professor smiled thinly. "Easy to crush, until you realize that crushing them is never simple." The images changed, showing humans building shelters, using fire and hunting with clever tools. Some humans fell, yes, but they learned, changed, and returned stronger. A ripple of awe passed through the students. Even the quietest ones felt a thrill. "This tiny species," the professor continued, "could survive storms, predators, and even each other." Then the room darkened, leaving only a view of a human city under attack. Machines crashed, creatures roared, and humans fought back with something the students had never seen before: strategy, courage, and teamwork. The professor's voice cut through the tension. "This is why Earth is called a death world. Not because the planet is weak, but because every creature there, especially humans, turns danger into a challenge." The students shivered, some excited, some afraid. They were about to learn that no matter how small or fragile a human appeared, underestimating them could be fatal. The first encounter. The knowledge orbs flickered as Professor Kieran's claw hovered over the control panel. "Now," he said, "you will see humans in their natural battles." The students leaned forward, anticipation buzzing in the air. The screen zoomed in on a dense forest, shadows moving between ancient trees. A pack of predators, larger than any the students had seen, prowled with deadly precision, sharp claws dug into the ground, eyes glinting with hunger. Suddenly, a group of humans appeared, small and unarmed. They froze for a moment, calculating, watching the predators with intense focus. One human lifted a strange stick, a simple tool. The students gasped as the human used it to trap the nearest predator. Another human ran, then swung from a vine, striking another predator with perfect timing. Every move was precise, unpredictable, almost magical. A student whispered, "But they are so tiny. How can they fight creatures like that?" Professor Kieran's eyes sparkled. "The galaxy underestimates them. Every time, the humans adapted to the predator's moves, turning the forest into a game they controlled. Even when a predator lunged from above, one human caught a falling branch and defended their friends. The aliens watched in stunned silence. Some were frightened, others exhilarated. The humans smiled, shouted, and laughed in triumph, fearless against creatures that could crush them with a single strike. Then a loud roar echoed from the distance. A shadow darker than night appeared. It was a predator, unlike the others. Faster, stronger, more cunning. The students froze, some gripping their desks. Professor Kieran's voice was calm, but full of weight. "This is the test." The humans faced the beast, analyzing, planning, improvising. It attacked with ferocity, but the humans responded with something no predator could predict: coordination, strategy, and pure courage. The shadow fell, beaten, retreating into the forest. The students' eyes widened, jaws slack. How did they do that? One whispered. Professor Kieran's thin smile returned. "Because humans turn every danger into opportunity." He paused, letting the words sink in. "And this is only the beginning." The lecture hall fell silent, every student realizing that Earth was far more dangerous and far more remarkable than any of them had imagined. Humans versus nature. The image of the forest faded, replaced by a vast, storm-battered coastline. Lightning split the sky, and massive waves crashed violently against jagged rocks. The students leaned forward, their eyes wide with disbelief. Professor Kieran's voice echoed. "Humans do not only face predators, they challenge the planet itself." A small group of humans struggled against the wind, carrying supplies along the cliffside. Their faces were pale with fear, their bodies battered by rain. Suddenly, a gigantic wave surged, threatening to sweep them away. The students gasped in horror, unable to look away. But the humans did not panic. One of them spotted a narrow ledge, signaling to the others. They climbed, jumped, and worked together, moving faster than the storm. Every step was dangerous. Every mistake could be fatal. A student whispered, trembling, "They are too small. The storm will kill them." Professor Kieran's eyes glimmered. Size does not matter on Earth, only willpower and cleverness. The humans used ropes, logs, and even fallen debris as tools, creating bridges and anchors where none existed. They outsmarted the waves, turning the chaos of nature into a path for survival. Another wave crashed behind them, and one human lost their grip, falling into the foam. The others reacted instantly, forming a chain, pulling their friend to safety. The students gasped again, some whispering, "No species this small could survive such fury." Professor Kieran raised a claw. Humans thrive where others would die. They adapt, they plan, and they fight even the wildest forces of nature. Lightning struck the cliff, splitting a tree in two. Yet the humans used it as a bridge to cross a chasm. The storm raged, yet they moved forward, unstoppable. The hall was silent. The knowledge orbs dimmed. Every student understood now why Earth was feared. Then the professor spoke softly, almost a whisper. And they do not only fight nature. He paused, letting the suspense build. They fight themselves. And they still survive. A shadow passed over the screens, hinting at dangers the students had not yet seen. The lesson was clear. Humans were small, fragile, and yet somehow unstoppable. The legend of the death world. The lecture hall went completely silent as the screens now showed a vast view of Earth from orbit. Oceans shimmered, deserts stretched endlessly, storms raged, and cities glowed like tiny stars. Professor Karen's voice echoed, calm and solemn. You have seen humans fight predators, nature, and machines. Now see why they are the true rulers of this death world. The students leaned forward, eyes wide with anticipation. A montage of humans appeared, small and fragile, yet performing incredible feats. They scaled mountains taller than anything the students had imagined. They crossed raging rivers with nothing but ropes and courage. They fought wild beasts, outsmarted machines, and survived storms that could crush entire cities. Every scene was more breathtaking than the last. One student whispered, "They are unstoppable." The professor nodded. Yes, small and fragile, yet unstoppable. Humans survive not because they are the strongest, but because they never give up. They adapt, they learn. They rise again even when everything seems lost. The images shifted to humans working together, building massive structures, exploring space, curing diseases, and creating wonders. Even in war, they showed strategy, courage, and the ability to inspire one another. Professor Karen's eyes glinted. They fight together. They turn even the deadliest challenges into opportunities. And that is why Earth is a death world. Because every step, every challenge is a test, and humans always pass. A hush fell over the students, some trembling, some exhilarated. One alien whispered, "No species in the galaxy could survive like this." The professor smiled thinly. Exactly, young ones. And remember this lesson. Do not judge by size or appearance. Do not underestimate determination, intelligence, and courage. Humans are fragile, yes, but in their fragility lies their greatest power. The screens faded to black, leaving only the image of Earth spinning silently in space. The students sat in awe, their minds racing, for they had witnessed something rare, something extraordinary. A species small in body but vast in spirit. A species that earned the title of the Death World's true masters. And in that silence, the young aliens understood that Earth was not just dangerous.